Okay, good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to reading class. I want to go over the packet with you that you'll be doing for this week for reading, and it's dealing with social studies as well. Some of this information we've already gone over this year, so some of it will be kind of a review for you. Some of the information talking about the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. But so let's just get started. So the first passage that you're going to talk about in your reading, you're going to be reading about in your packet, is talking about the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so it's going to be giving you information about the U.S. Constitution. So it says the U.S. Constitution is one of the most important documents for our history. It explains exactly how both the government works and how it gives each branch of government power. However, it also details the rights and the freedoms of the citizens of the United States. Where did the Constitution come from and how was it made? It was created through a long process. Before the Constitution was written, there were the Articles of Confederation. This document was written in 1781. So as a good reader, I'm going to stop there for just a second. And I'm going to start to make a few little notes about what I've read so far. Okay, so I was reading and I realized that the Constitution is a document. So I wanted to circle the word document for our country. And then I'm also going to underline this right here where it says it explains both how the government works. I think that is important. And how it gives each branch of government power. So that's also important information. So I'm going to draw kind of arrow and put important. Okay, so now also I'm going to put before the Constitution was written, we had the Articles of Confederation, and we talked about that. And I know from what we've talked about, remember we talked about this was a weak government. Okay, this document was written in 1781. It was the first document that the 13 colonies agreed upon about their shared government. It was a very important step because it gave the national government some basic powers. For example, a national army or allowing the government to pass laws. However, before long, leaders realized that they needed a stronger constitution. The government wasn't allowed to collect taxes. Wow, that's shocking to me. I'm going to circle that. And in my notes, I'm going to write, wow, because we know that our government collects taxes these days. This meant that the soldier couldn't be paid and that the government couldn't pay back their international debt. So they decided to rewrite the Constitution at the Constitutional Convention of May 1787. The goal of the Constitutional Convention was to create a stronger government, but one that would also protect the individual's rights. Remember, they were kind of worried because that's why they came over here, is because they wanted freedom from the king. So they wanted to make sure they put something in place to protect the rights, their personal rights. They didn't want a government that would overtax its people or treat them unfairly, because this is what they were used to. This was back in Britain. You know, the British king did this. So they wanted to make sure that they did not repeat those same mistakes that they once had. So I'm going to take my highlighter. I can get it out. And I'm going to highlight this important information, like Articles of Confederation. Could not collect taxes. They wanted to make sure they created a government that did not treat them unfairly. I'm going to highlight what the U.S. Constitution is. That was important. And I want to make sure that I know what it does. So that was just some information that I found that was important as I was reading. Yours may be different. Okay, so let's look at this. During the Constitutional Convention, the smaller states wanted to make sure that they had a voice. And remember, we watched the Liberty Kids on that, and I'm going to post a link also in the comments about this, where we had to do the Great Compromise. However, the larger states wanted to have more of an influence because of the amount of people that lived there. Finally, they found a solution, the Great Compromise. I'm going to highlight this because this was the solution. And we had the disagreement between the larger states and the smaller states. The Great Compromise was created Congress the way we know it today. In the House, each state is given a number of representatives based on the state's population. In the Senate, each state is provided with 2 senators. So this is in the Senate. and no matter how many people reside in that state. That, remember, the smaller states they were very concerned about that because they said that they wouldn't have an equal representation. So this takes care of the smaller states. The Constitution was finished in 1787, and Delaware was the first state to ratify it. I wonder if that's going to be a test question. However, 9 out of the 13 states had to sign before it became a law. Some of the states didn't ratify the Constitution because they argued that the details about the people's rights and freedoms weren't included. Eventually, this is about your next passage, the Bill of Rights will come along. It was added to the Constitution in the form of 10 amendments. Then the other states ratified the Constitution. Even though the Constitution was written over 200 years ago, that's interesting, wow. It is still important for us today. It explains exactly what powers the government has and how it works. It also details the rights the citizens of our country have. The Constitution is still an important guide for lawmakers and the leaders of today. So now we're going to look at our questions, and you're going to answer this. Why is the Constitution important? So you're going to go back to your passage and figure out why. And remember, when we're doing this, we'd say it explains about, and we take out the ones that it can't be, and then we circle because we want to get rid of those junk answers. What was something that the Articles of Confederation was missing? When was the Constitutional Convention? What was the goal of the Constitutional Convention? And why was the Great Compromise created? Okay, so those are the questions you'll be answering with that. So also, you're going to be reading, I'm going to let you guys read this one. This is talking about the Bill of Rights, and this is what we were talking about when we were discussing those personal freedoms, those things like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to bear arms. So these were some of the Bill of Rights. We also talked about the no quartering part in the Bill of Rights, and we talked about that's where a soldier couldn't come live in your home, because we had witnessed that happening during the Revolutionary War. The British soldiers could just come in and take the food of the colonists, or they could just come in and take their fences or chop down their trees. So we kind of see them put that in there because they had just experienced that. Okay, and so when we look at our questions after we read it, I would read these questions before I read the passage, so I know what I'm looking for. Based on the information in this article, what is the Bill of Rights? So that's what we're going to be looking for. Which amendment to the Constitution protects your right to gather in a group of people who share the same ideas and values as you? Which amendment to the Constitution gives authority to the U.S. states? What personal freedom does the Fourth Amendment provide? And what event or circumstances prompted the inclusion of the Third Amendment? So you need to go back to the text, highlight where you found the Third Amendment, and answer that question. So what event led to the Third Amendment? The event that led to the Third Amendment would be, and then I put it. What personal freedoms does the Fourth Amendment provide? I look for the word Fourth Amendment. And what freedom does it protect? The Fourth Amendment protects the freedom of, and then I would answer it. And then it talks about the 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments work together to help protect the rights of which group of people. So that would be important to go back, look for 7th, 6th, and 8th. And then on this part, it's just going to be matching. Look, use your passage for those definitions. And last but not least, you are going to be writing, okay? This needs to be a good written response. It says, in the article, Let's Understand the Bill of Rights, you learned that the Bill of Rights was added to the U.S. Constitution in order to guarantee personal freedoms to the citizens of the United States. Which of the 10 amendments you learned about in the article do you think is most important, and explain your reasoning? So let's say you chose the amendment for freedom of speech, okay? So you're going to make your sentence. We'd even put a little grabber in there if you wanted to. Which amendment do you think is most important. I think that, and whichever one you feel is most valuable, I'm going to use a different word than important. The first reason is blank. The second reason is blank. Lastly, or we'll say my last reason is, and then you would fill this out. These are just a few reasons. Just a few reasons why I believe amendment, whichever number it is most important. So I've given you this. Now, please remember to capitalize the beginning of those sentences. Do not forget. Okay, so that's how I would set up my writing. Also on this, you can look these up on the internet, but this is talking about pronouns, and we know our pronouns, I've done these with you, are like he, she, they, we, I, you. So you're going to be looking for pronouns. It may ask you, what does it take the place of? So let's say it may say Sarah went to the store. So we may say Sarah went to the store. It had lots of food. Okay, so let's say I wanted to replace Sarah. If I wanted to replace the word, the name Sarah, then I would change that to she, because the pronoun for Sarah would be she. If I was asking you, what does this it take the place of? What am I talking about? It had lots of food. That would be referring to the store. So that would be talking about what pronouns are, okay? So you're going to complete the little pronoun section of your packet as well. And I've already posted the video that goes with your math. So I hope you enjoy reading class. I hope you have a great week. Goodbye.